This is completely unacceptable behavior for this neighborhood. You need to remove this structure by 5 p.m. today or face the consequences.
At 6:18 a.m. on May 3, 2024, I opened my front door to cold air and the sharp smell of wet asphalt, and there it was. A brand new chain-link fence cutting across my driveway like a bad joke. The metal posts still had muddy footprints around them. A fresh padlock hung in front, shiny and smug. My porch light caught the glare like a little warning flare. Across the street, someone's sprinklers clicked on, hissing like they were in on it. I stood there in my slippers, holding a travel mug of coffee, watching my own property get treated like a crime scene. By 6:25 a.m., my phone was blowing up with my escrow officer saying we needed one last document before 9:00 a.m. or the refinance would be delayed. That document was in the small building behind my house, the old meeting room the neighborhood calls the council hall. And that's when it hit me like a slap. HOA fenced my council hall over my escrow file. Good thing I'm their judge backed by the email thread. It's deeded to my lot. Not shared. The fence wasn't about safety. It was about leverage, and they picked the worst week to play tug-of-war. I walked to the fence and tapped the padlock. It made that hard, empty clink that tells you someone did this fast and didn't care who it hurt. I called the HOA office. Straight to voicemail. I emailed the board rep, no reply. I knocked on the HOA president's door because her porch light was on. She opened it in a robe like she'd been waiting. She smiled without warmth and said, "You can't access HOA property until you settle your balance." I said, "That building is on my deed. I'm not asking for a favor." She shrugged and said, "Take it up at the next meeting." Then she shut the door like she just closed a file drawer. That afternoon, I tried the calm route. I sent a polite email with screenshots from my closing checklist and a copy of the survey. I offered to meet at 5:30 p.m. so she could watch me grab the escrow file. The board answered with a 2-line message that felt like a dare. The council hall is community space. Do not trespass. When I walked my street, neighbors suddenly had a lot to do. A guy who usually waves stared at his mailbox like it was giving him orders. A woman watering her plants turned her back the moment I looked over. People were scared to be seen agreeing with me, and that told me everything about who had been running this place. I'm not proud of how loud my thoughts got that night. My jaw hurt from clenching. But I drew a line in my own head. No damage. No shouting matches. Proper channels only. I filed 3 written complaints in one day, one to the HOA, one to the management company, and one to the city because the fence blocked emergency access to my backyard gate. I printed my deed. I printed the plat map. I even printed the old newsletter from 2019 where they bragged the council hall was hosted by the homeowner on Lot 12. That homeowner was me now. And if they wanted paperwork, I could drown them in it. The next morning at 8:40 a.m., I went to the county records window downtown. The clerk had a stamp that sounded like a judge's gavel, and I loved that sound more than I should have. I asked for everything tied to my parcel, plus every HOA filing that mentioned easements. She slid a thick packet across the counter, and the file landed with 73 pages. Heavy. Final. I paid the fee, $212, and I didn't even blink. Back home, I spread it all on my kitchen table like a detective who finally got the case file. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. The fence didn't look tough anymore. It looked sloppy. That's when the pattern showed itself, and it wasn't just about a fence. Timeline item 1 April 5 at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. I had the dispatch number. I had the body cam request receipt. There were 2 more calls after that, both claiming I was breaking into HOA storage, which was funny because the storage was literally behind my house. Then came the sudden fines, for notices in 10 days, each one stamped urgent like panic. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. I wrote that line down because it was simple and true, and I knew someone official was going to say it out loud soon. Here's the part they didn't see coming. Our HOA has a compliance hearing panel, and the chair rotates each month. It's supposed to keep things fair. Most folks ignore it until they're in trouble. I didn't ignore it. I've served on it for over a year because I like rules when they're used right. That week, I was the chair. The judge of their little hearing circus. So when the HOA president demanded an emergency hearing to fine me for interfering with records, the request landed in my inbox. I replied with a time and location because they couldn't access the fenced building. We met at the public library conference room at 6:00 p.m., and she walked in smiling like she brought popcorn to my funeral. People showed up like it was a movie premiere. Not because they loved me. Because bullies make good entertainment when they finally slip. 2 neighbors sat in the back with phones held low, pretending to text. A teenager leaned against the wall and hit record without even hiding it. Someone's Apple Watch kept lighting up with notifications, buzzing like a tiny drum roll. I heard whispers. That's him, the one they fenced out. She really did it over escrow? No way. I thought it was common space. Look at his binder. He came prepared. My group chat is going crazy right now. She's about to get cooked. Another neighbor muttered, I'm just here to see if she lies again. The room felt tight and electric, like everyone finally took a breath they'd been holding for months. The HOA president started with that sweet voice people use when they're trying to sound reasonable. She said, this homeowner is refusing to cooperate, and we had to secure community assets. I opened my binder and slid the email thread onto the table, page after page, with her own words highlighted. I read the line where she wrote, lock it up until he pays, he'll fold before escrow. Then I placed the deed copy beside it. Then the plat. Then the county packet. Then the photo of the fence blocking the fire lane marker. The board rep's face went pale. The management guy kept blinking like his contacts were failing. A city code inspector sat in the corner because of my complaint, quietly taking notes. When the president tried to interrupt, I said, please stop. I'm still reading your email. The inspector spoke next, and it wasn't dramatic. It was worse than dramatic. It was calm. He pointed to the fence photo and said it was unpermitted work, installed without notice, and it obstructed access required for emergency egress. He cited the municipal code section, and the board rep actually wrote it down like a student who forgot there would be a test. A deputy who came to review the false calls looked at the dispatch records and said, these reports match your name and number. Then he added, if this keeps happening, it becomes a legal problem, not an HOA problem. The management guy asked if the HOA could just remove the fence tonight. The inspector said, remove it and we document compliance. Keep it and you'll get daily fines. The president's smile finally cracked. And right after that, something weird happened in the room. The spell broke. You could feel it like a window opening. Shoulders dropped. People sat straighter, like they remembered they had spines. Phones came up higher, not sneaky anymore, just honest. The HOA president kept trying to talk, but the air wasn't feeding her lines anymore. She looked around for backup, and nobody jumped in. The board rep stopped nodding along and started reading the papers like he'd just learned he could be personally named in a lawsuit. Even the guy who always defends the HOA cleared his throat and stared at the carpet. It wasn't loud. It was quiet power. A bully needs oxygen, and the room stopped handing it out. In the weeks after, you could see the neighborhood changing in small, satisfying ways. People started documenting instead of whispering. A neighbor who used to avoid eye contact walked up and said, I saved screenshots too, just in case. Someone printed the meeting minutes and taped them to the community mailbox like a public service announcement. The group chat stopped being a fear tunnel and turned into a watchdog. Someone posted, if you get a fine, ask for the hearing. Another replied, keep everything in writing. A mom pushing a stroller told the HOA president, please don't speak to me like that, and she didn't even shake afterward. The board started sending softer emails. They added actual dates. They stopped using the word immediate like it was a weapon. It felt like sunlight hitting a corner that used to be damp. By June 12, 2024, the fence was gone, and the grass around the posts had little scars where the metal had been yanked out. The HOA reimbursed my filing costs, $212, and the management company waived the 4 fake fines. The city logged the violation as corrected, but the inspector still made the HOA apply for any future work like everyone else. The deputy warned them in writing about false reporting. The president got voted out at the next board meeting, and nobody even clapped. They just exhaled. That night I unlocked the council hall, grabbed my escrow file, and slid it into a clean folder like it deserved peace. I signed my refinance papers at 8:47 a.m. and drank my coffee slow, finally tasting it. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and share. Was the HOA wrong? Drop a comment.